Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This video is going to start with the overview of Unit 1, the basic overview of Unit 1, and we'll get into Lesson 1. But the basic overview of Unit 1 is we're going to talk about the North American continent, even a little bit of Central America and South America, but we're going to talk about the Native Americans, the indigenous people, and their first contact with Europeans, and kind of discuss what is going to start to happen as Europeans start to come to the Americas. Here we have the question of what factor contributes to people relocating? Well, if you were thinking of today, you would think of maybe jobs, better opportunities, taxes, weather. Those are things that would maybe contribute to where you're moving or why you would be moving. Whereas if we think of back hundreds of years ago, it could be to follow food, to be able to own land, to leave and have freedom from something, to leave from a place of conflict or war. Okay, so those are things that would kind of lead people to move. In lesson one, we're going to discuss kind of the three original or the three kind of big ancient civilizations, the Mayan, the Aztec, and the Inca. But we're also going to discuss some of the basic ideas of tribes. We assigned you tribes over in your summer packet, your summer readings, and we're going to look at several of those tribes. So when we look here at the beginning, thousands of years ago, there was this natural kind of land bridge that connected the eastern and western hemispheres. And you could see that the journeys of people that came through from Asia, what is modern day Russia, Japan, started to move through this landmass into what is now Alaska, into what is modern day Canada, into North America, Central America, and eventually into South America. And that's because of that the landmass, and people moved based upon the environment and the geographic features that are there, food, and those things will start to develop and control people's culture. Now, the Mayans, one of the early civilizations, is down in the Yucatan Peninsula, in Guatemala, Belize, the southern part of Mexico, highly advanced. For their time, they're very highly advanced. They made there. You could still go and visit the Mayan ruins today, but they were known for their art, their architecture, their mathematics, their astronomy, and the way they can make calendars and really they for what we think of technology today, many of us think of computers. They were able to build things and to do math without the technology that we have today. Now, when we think of what makes a civilization like the Mayans or the Aztecs, the Inca, really when we think about civilizations, early people were hunters and gatherers and moved and were nomadic and followed the food. To be an actual um, civilization, you had to have stable food. You had to have stable water to drink. So civilizations would develop around water, agriculture like farming, and maybe some sort of livestock to have food. And civilizations would develop around that. And the Mayans, the Aztec, and the Incas were some of the early civilizations that developed around that in the Americas. Now, no one really knows for sure. There's a lot of different ideas, theories about why the Mayans declined. Some say it was overhunting or foreign invaders or even peasant revolts that contributed to the downfall. One of their staples is the miracle crop of maize. Maize is considered one of the miracle crops of of civilizations. Even today, maize, or what we many of us call corn, is a staple. It's all over. If you look around, it's growing everywhere. Corn is in our food, it's in our cereals and flour, corn flour, cornmeal. You have many of our things that we eat today that are processed are sweetened with corn syrup. We use corn for gasoline. So corn is still a staple of society today. For most societies, corn is huge. The Mayans and the Aztecs use corn. North American tribes use corn. We also see potatoes, like in the Inca, are going to be used. Potatoes will be a staple of Ireland. So you're going to see certain staples that are around depending upon the geographic regions. Now, the Aztecs are a little bit north of the Yucatan Peninsula. The Aztecs was another large civilization. They were a very large and powerful region in Mexico. They too used corn as a staple. Unfortunately for them, the Spanish came. Now, Spain and Portugal were able to um, to explore and to colonize and imperialize and conquer because Spain and Portugal are on a peninsula. Where they are in Europe, they're surrounded three sides by water, and because of that, they have large coastlines. They had boats, and they expanded and traveled. And you have to understand that European countries, many of them had absolute monarchs, and for a country to be powerful, they had to have wealth. And wealth came from gold, silver, precious gems. Wealth also came from controlling land and having resources. So, to gain wealth, Spanish and Portuguese sent out explorers to gain wealth for them. So, you'll see that happening. Cortez will come to what is Mexico today, and with their technology, weaponry, they were able to conquer the Aztecs. He used surrounding tribes that didn't like the Aztecs and essentially destroy them through disease and working them to death. And the Spanish also made a document called the Requirement or the Requiremento, forcing the indigenous people to follow the Catholicism and to speak Spanish. So that's why even today, hundreds of years later, a large percentage of people that come from Latin America, where the Spain had conquered, speak Spanish, and many of them are Catholic. If you go to Brazil, where the Portuguese had conquered, you will see many people in Brazil speak the Portuguese language. Now, we also see the Inca that's in modern day Peru. They had a big flourishing society also. They depended because of the environment. Corn didn't grow there as well, but potatoes did. They too are going to be conquered by the Spanish. They're going to be conquered by the conquistador Pizarro. Now, Pizarro learned his skills of being a conqueror from Cortez. He was with Cortez when Cortez conquered the Aztecs. Um, the Inca and in Peru, they're known for their Pocio, Pato, Potosi mines. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And over 60 tons of silver have been taken out of the mines there. So there was a lot of wealth in that region. And they're also right there on the Pacific Ocean. So, people always ask, what factors contributed to the dominance of the Europeans over the indigenous people? Steel, guns, disease, these things, soldiers, trained warriors, helped the technology advances, the education advances. We're not saying that the indigenous people were not educated, but it was a different kind of education. The idea of having steel is a huge advantage for the European countries as they expanded into the New World. Some people ask, why weren't the natives, Americans, the Africans, the Aboriginal Australians, why weren't they the ones doing that? to the Europeans, and it's largely because not lack of technology, but types of technology that they didn't have that the Europeans had. And if you think about it, Spain and Portugal are so small. When you think about they conquered so much in the Americas, in what is modern day Central and South America. But as you can see in the map here, there are tribes throughout the Americas. And depending on where they were, depending on where they were living, changed their economic activity, whether they were farming, they were hunters, they were fishermen. Their culture really depended upon the environment that they were living in. But we know the development of farming is really the backbone of civilizations, and maize is that miracle crop. Maize and potatoes, for some, further depending on their culture or not their environment, potatoes was another growing crop. We saw things such as beans, squash, tomatoes, peppers, avocados, coca, vanilla. These are things that, if you're able to cultivate things, helps the development of civilizations. Okay, so miracle crop is maize, and really uh, maize and potatoes are kind of the staples of a lot of indigenous cultures. Now, over the summer, you were given a grid sheet with the 6 tribes here, and your job was to fill it out and kind of discuss the different characteristics of the 6 tribes. And we know the Pueblo are down here in the southwest, the Shoshone are right in this region, kind of northwest, but a little more towards the Great Plains. Then you had the Chinook up here in the northwest. You had the Sioux here more towards the Great Plains. Then you had the Iroquois in the northeast, and then towards the southeast you had the Cherokee. So you were supposed to fill out that grid um, over the summer. Now, with on page 6 of your resource guide is an assignment. You're going to be assigned a tribe, and you are on that sheet going to, through pictures and things like that, you're going to draw and you're going to try to show us about that one tribe. Tell us about the region of the tribe, cultural features, social, political, economic aspects of the tribe, how they interact with the environment, and how the tribe interacts with other tribes on page 6 of your resource guide. Okay, so that will be the National Geographic product. Okay. You're also going to be assigned a video that's going to be on an Edpuzzle. This video will be pushed out through Google Classroom. It's a 15-minute video with 3 or 4 questions that it'll pause it, ask you a question from the video, and we're going to reflect on that video in class in a couple days. So at the end of the day, you should be able to discuss and understand why people move throughout the landscape of North America. You should be able to compare and contrast tribes and what makes them unique. And we know geography played a huge role with that. And then on page 6 of your resource guide, you should be able to, select one tribe and develop an argument that justifies the way they live and their characteristics. All right. Well, with that being said, have a great day. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your AP US History teacher. We'll see you. Goodbye.